Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Commission for the City of Deltona's workshop for March 8th, 2021. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Avila Vasquez.
Present.
Commissioner King.
Here.
Commissioner McCool.
Here.
Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Commissioner Sosa.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bradford.
Here.
Mayor Hersberg.
Here. And now may we all stand and pledge for the pledge. Commissioner King, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 items on our workshop today. The first item is a charter review overview and discussion. The second item is a decorum policy general discussion. And the third item is the 25th anniversary celebration general discussion. Before we get into the charter review overview and discussion, I left all of you and the clerk as well 2 items of interest. One was given by Mr. Jim Cameron today at the round table, a virtual Volusia Days at the Capitol, March 16th and March 17th. You can log into these. You do not have to stay on for every one. You can go ahead and discuss this and go on the website and just listen to certain part of these. You don't have to stay on everything. And the second thing is the vaccine update, and there's just some numbers on how many first doses, how many second doses, and how many homebound missions. And at the bottom of that is the upcoming vaccination events regarding K through 12 employee vaccinations and the county and so forth. One thing that was mentioned today is there are an amount of people that are not coming back for their second vaccinations. So if you know anyone that has had their first one, please encourage them. They're having a lot of no-shows for the second vaccination. So just those 2 little pieces of update. Charter review, overview, and discussion. Mr. Peters.
Some discussion, I believe it started with a citizen a couple meetings ago about starting the charter process. So I want to go over what the process is in the city, and you can give directions on how you want to proceed. Florida Statute 166.031 provides for a process to amend a municipal charter. And I've highlighted the key portions of this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the key portion is the governing body of municipality may, by ordinance, or the electors of the municipality may, by petition signed by 10% of the registered voters, can start a charter process, make a request for a charter amendment for the voters, which amendment may be for any part of or for all of said charter except the part describing the boundaries of the municipality. So you can literally, under 166.031, rewrite the entire charter except for this is the boundary of the city. So that is what state statute actually allows. And then in our city charter, section 11, paragraph 2, the first part of that actually references back to that state statute I just read you. In our city charter, paragraph A, the charter shall be reviewed no sooner than 5 years after the creation of the city, that was in 2000, and every year after that, a minimum every 10 years. And we are within the 10 years of the last charter review. So technically, we do not have to do a charter review by charter, but you can if you want. The process is a 5-member charter review committee shall be appointed and funded by the Deltona City Commission. The charter review committee shall be appointed at least 1 year before the next scheduled general election and complete its work and present any recommendation for a change no later than 60 days before the general election. This is probably one of the charter changes that need to occur, because with early voting and the next requirement we're going to see in a minute about having 2 public hearings, 60 days is not enough time. It actually needs to be about 120 days before. So this would actually be one of my first recommended charter amendments, is this language right here. The Deltona City Commission shall hold a minimum of 2 public hearings on the proposed changes to the charter prior to placing the proposed changes on the scheduled general election ballot. And that's it. So that is a very quick overview of the charter review process. The key is it's 5 members, not 7, like 1 appointed by each of you all. It would be a 5-member charter review group that you all would select. And so with that, I will answer any questions you may have.
I have a quick question, sir. The last charter review that we did, I know we had the 5 members, and we also had 2 alternates that would sit in on all the meetings in case somebody bailed out. Is that an appropriate thing to do?
That's a legal question, I would think. Yeah. My viewpoint would be if one of the 5 falls off, you need to have somebody that can step in, so.
And that was the reason to have the 2 alternates that came to all of the meetings and so forth, just in case somebody bailed out. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Just feel free to. I guess the first question that we have is, do we want to go forward with this? That's the number 1 question. Do we want to do this and have something set up for the 2022 election, or do you want to push it out and go through, not worry about it now and go through 2024? So.
I say we move forward. Sorry.
Could I just ask someone, one of you guys, to just hit your button to speak?
I did.
No. Let me make sure. So whoever wants to, just go ahead, go down the row, whatever wants to speak, because I can't see anything on here.
What?
Mr. Peters, when was our last charter review?
I'm not certain of the date. I was hoping that Joyce would be here to answer that question, but my understanding, it was about 7 or 8 years ago.
So this would be a good time to get it done?
We're getting close to the
So
time.
we're not waiting for the last minute?
I think it was in 2014.
It was, and it
So
went
it
on
was
the
7 years ago?
Yeah, and it went on the 2016 ballot.
2016?
I'm pretty sure, right, Maritza, is that correct? It wouldn't have gone on the 2015. It would have gone on the 2016 ballot.
And one of the clarification we need would be is the 10 years, is that when the review group is created, or when they make their recommendation? I think it's when they're created, so that's why you have to back that up, and it makes the answer difficult. So.
Whoever has another question, just go ahead.
Okay. The other thing is, if we choose to go ahead, staff will put together some application forms for y'all's approval as to what you want to have on the application for those people who are interested in serving on the charter review, because I think that's important, so that we know as much as we can about the person before they're given consideration being put on the charter review.
Could I ask a question? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So are we putting applications?
Okay.
Are we going down the line, or are we just
Yeah, no,
jumping in?
go ahead down the line, because I don't have anything to, so just go down the
Okay.
line and,
So it's going to be put out there, just like we do for the boards. Anybody who wants to be part of the charter committee will put their application, and we review them.
What I would propose is that we would put a document online and any other way that we can advertise it. so that we can let people know that you need to fill out this application for consideration for charter review by X date. And then whoever you have by that date, you all will review it and then make a determination of which 5 would be on it. And if your desire is 1 or 2 alternates, how many alternates you would choose also.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor, did you have any comments, or do you want to wait? I'll wait till the rest. Okay, Commissioner Ramos?
I'm just saying, let's move forward.
Okay.
That would be my comment.
Commissioner McCool?
Yeah, I just simply wanted to understand, like, what the qualifications were for the board.
To live in the city of Deltona.
Okay, I didn't know
And I believe it's the same qualifications as 6 months or something like that. I believe that we have for an election, but maybe not. I don't know.
Actually, the charter is silent on that. The assumption is they have to live in the city. Unlike someone running for a city commission where the charter is very specific as to residency requirement and the like, the charter is silent on that. So that is why I believe it's important to have an application form that you all decide is 6 months appropriate, is a year, or whatever your requirements are. So you all have the right to choose, I believe, based on what the charter language is, what conditions you want to put on it. I would be reluctant personally to put a condition that is more restrictive than you all have, but that's my personal opinion. But it is silent with regards to that. In fact, I don't believe it even says a resident of the city, which is the second charter amendment I would recommend.
And I'm sorry, last thing, and they're selected, are they selected based on a ranking, or how are they finally chosen?
Say that again, ma'am?
How are they finally chosen? Is it a ranking?
You all would make that choice.
Well, I
It
understand.
specifically says the city commission would select the 5 people and fully fund. And now, that's a key language there, because there are 2 processes in which a charter can come forward. The public, with 10% of the electorate signing a petition, could create their own charter review group, come up with their own charter review, do a petition with 10% of the electorate signing it, and present it as a item to go on the budget, on the ballot. And so what the charter is saying, select and fund, is making this distinction that this is a group that the commission is designating to come forward with charter amendment.
So
And that's why I put the state statute provision, because there is an alternative way of doing it, and that's let the voters do it.
Okay, I was just trying to be clear, because like I know when I was when I was appointed, you all had sheets and you ranked, right? And then the highest ranking, that's how the members were.
It's more or less the same thing, Commissioner. It's, I mean, we all select somebody, and then we keep getting narrowed down until.
No, you don't, and it's only 5 people and 2
Right.
alternates.
Right, and once, then you narrow it down to.
I would, that can be discussed how you want to do it. I don't know what your recommendation is, Mr. Peters. A ranking system isn't a bad idea, but, once again, this situation, the body votes, is going to have to vote on these 5 individuals and alternates if you choose to go with the alternates.
And say if you had 30 applications, you got to whittle it down to 5, and how do you do that? That's my point. Yeah,
5 and 2 alternates, yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand process, so thank you for that clarity.
Madam Mayor, to your question, if you all give me the consensus tonight that you want to go forward with this, we would draft an application for y'all's review and approval. We would also recommend the process in which to select. Because I think what you may run into is, if Ms. McCool said, what if you have 30 applicants, and you may want to do a 2-step process to reduce them and select. Whereas if you only have 7 applicants, then the process would be totally different. So, I think that you may need a process to whittle the number down to 10 or 7 people and then select. or if you just have 10 or 7, you just go straight to the selection process. That would be what I would propose.
Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And that's where I was heading to. I think that if we can give consensus tonight
Yes.
of moving forward,
Yes.
then I think we can give him an opportunity so then we can answer these questions later on.
Yes.
So I'm for it.
Vice Mayor?
That's exactly what I was going to say, is I'm, in my opinion, I'm giving consensus to do it. I think we do need to work out as well, like Commissioner McCool was stating, exactly how we're doing this process. So we did a similar ranking system when it came to, several different selections. I think even when we were going through the applications for the city manager search, we did a ranking. And that seems to work out really well, and it actually helps us to know what to look for. So I'm for us, let's get started sooner than later so that we're not having to have a rush, and that we do have time for, public participation when we need it and getting residents' input on it.
Okay. Okay, since there's no one else lit up, we will go ahead and go to any public comment.
Albert Bryant, please.
And just as Mr. Bryant comes up, looking at this last article, the Charter Review Committee was created in 2013, and it was put on the 2014 ballot, according to this.
Took words right out of my mouth there, Mayor. I was just going to tell you, I was just reviewing that. Anyhow, Albert Bryan, Deltona. It amazes me, it really does. To think that y'all are going to get 30 people to apply for this is just amazing to me. How many people do you get apply for most of your boards? Oh, that's right, maybe 5 or 10, if you're lucky. I mean, really lucky. So I just have to address the fact that it's funny to me that y'all think you're going to get 30 people to actually talk about this charter, when 99% of everybody in this city has no clue of what's in that charter. Nobody. Now, there's probably a few that are sitting behind me that do, because they're like me, they're dedicated, and they come up here very frequently. I hope you do go through with this process. I hope you put the applications online. And I hope I'm one of the first ones that put one in for y'all, because I'll tell you what, it needs to be reviewed. There's quite a few things, as far as I'm concerned, that need to be reviewed, need to be changed. And if y'all can't go forward with this, I'll make sure we change it one way or another.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that concludes the public comment portion. So commissioners, because we do not vote at a workshop, we are going to ask, Mr. Peters should ask for consensus as to whether or not we want to go forward with starting the process, looking at applications and so forth. So all those in favor of moving forward, say aye. Aye. Is there anyone that does not want to move forward? Okay, so sir, you have your direction. Everyone is a consensus to move forward, to explore and move forward with a charter review committee. Okay? Next item on the agenda, B, item B, the decorum policy. Mr. Peters, this is you too.
All right, this is slightly longer than the last one. This discussion will cover 2 different areas of decorum, and actually I changed that, and I apologize, I should have taken the second one out. We're only going to talk about one, that's regarding city meetings such as commission, planning and zoning, and special magistrate. The city building discussion, we are getting some legal advice on how to proceed with that one. City meetings. The City Commission last updated the operation guidelines and meeting rules and procedures on 30 July 2020. These guidelines are comprehensive and are located in the plastic crates behind you, over with the city manager and the city attorney, and there's a crate in the back of the room. One of those notebooks includes the policies and procedures for operating y'all's meetings. Without belaboring all the guidelines, I will focus on key elements. Much of the guidelines are rooted in Robert's Rule of Order. In fact, the language in many cases are a direct copy straight from Robert's Rule. The balance of discussion, a quick review and key elements. On page 4 of the procedures. This is a direct quote, "To ensure the integrity of the public meeting process and open government, commissioners shall be prohibited from accepting and sending any electronic communication via cell phones or other devices during the course of a city commission meeting. Electronic research is permitted."
Mr. Peters, if I may interject, Commissioners, I gave you 2 resolutions. I put them on your desk, your position over here, your desk, and one of those is what Mr. Peters is talking about. And the other one is a separate item, but the one that we're talking about, is that 2010-42, sir?
Yes, ma'am. And let me explain
No,
why
wait,
this.
that's a telephonic process. This is 2015-
And I want to explain why that one is important. Several years ago, you all may be aware of a rezoning involving Universal over in Orlando. Orange County Commission was handling the rezoning. There were a flurry of text messages that were going from the audience to commissioners, council members, or whatever they're called. There were ethics violations, ethics charges made against them. I think almost the entire board had to pay a $300 fine for violation for doing that. And under our charter, if you're found guilty of an ethics violation, it is a malfeasance. And there's certain things that result from that. So it's extremely important that we keep ourselves clean. Just keep your cell phones in your pocket, down in your purse, or leave them up with the clerk. I'm just trying to keep anybody from getting in trouble. There's been some accusations made from the public about it, and I just want to make you all aware of it and how it applies to our policy. So I don't want to get into who, what, where, and when. We just need to be careful from this point forward. On page 6, the City Commission shall follow content-neutral time, place, and manner regulation to control disruption while insisting on decorum and allowing the City Commission to conduct city business. Continuing, civility arises from a sense of shared enterprise. To that end, the Deltona City Commission shall continue to embrace dissension as a civic right and work to create a climate where the public feels included and respected. I don't know if you all have been getting the emails that I've been getting over the last several weeks of residents who are telling me they're not comfortable coming into a city commission meeting, even with the COVID protocol notwithstanding, because of the manner in which they were treated when they were in the commission chambers or the language that they're subjected to. I can tell you from a personal standpoint, when I was up visiting my daughter's family, my daughter was bragging to the grandchildren that I was an acting city manager. I came within a hair of saying, no, you can watch the meetings and see Grandpa. I didn't, because I don't know what they're going to hear. And that's really sad. The F-bombs, the other curse language, it's not needed. We get far more done in government with being respectful and having a respectful conversation about the issues and not tearing people down and, trying to incite something with the language or whatever. And the policy's already in place with regard to that matter. And I said, recently I've seen email from residents who would like to participate either in person or via Deltona TV because they feel threatened in person or find the language often used to be highly offensive. They choose not to participate. Continuing on page 6, Any person who addresses the city commission and makes personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks to any member of the city commission, staff, or the general public that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct at any city commission meeting and the conduction of city business shall, at the discretion of the mayor or a majority of city commission, be barred from further audience before the city commission during that meeting. There's a key thing there, and I think it's important for you all. The mayor is not the only person that controls the quorum. At any point, any one of you all can call point of order and say, I find the language in violation of our city policy. I ask a motion to, so note. Now, most places that I have been around, you get one warning. But sometimes people slip up. You get one warning, second time you're gone. But you know, the mayor sometimes may be listening and miss what was said. One of you all may hear it. Each one of you all have the right to call a point of order, and the mayor will say, what's your point? And you will say, you know, the language is in violation, or the actions are in violation, or whatever it is that you believe is in violation of this policy. You can call it out and say, I wish the commission to vote to give this person the first warning. Now, the mayor can interject at that point and say, I will issue such warning. There's no reason for a vote. So, you know, that is a process. Your policy doesn't say you get a warning, but I would strongly recommend that, you know, the internal policy regarding the meetings is you did one warning. And then if they choose to continue the behavior, then you have them removed for the rest of the meeting. On page 10, every commissioner desiring to speak shall address the chair, and upon recognition by the mayor, shall confirm himself to be to the question under debate, confine himself to the question under debate, avoiding all personalities and indecorous language. Except for workshops, each commissioner can only speak twice on a motion. It should be noted that under Robert's rules, each commissioner is allowed to speak once on a matter before a commissioner is allowed the floor for a second time. So if you have a motion and a second on the floor and you're having discussion, each of you all have an opportunity to speak once. Once that has elapsed, and everybody says, I'm done, if another commissioner wants a second time to speak to the matter, they will be recognized at that point under Robert's rule and be allowed to discuss it. The other thing that's important there is staying on the issue. You know, I'm not beating people up. This goes on everywhere I've ever worked, is you have certain council members and commissioners that go off on a tangent. They need to be reined in and reminded we need to talk about this subject. Staff believes the city needs to adopt a similar procedure for governing the Planning and Zoning Board, and new procedures regarding decorum needs to be drafted for the special magistrate's hearing. Right now, we do not have those for those two boards. If we would create them and get them approved by the commission, then we would have policy for decorum involving all of our meetings that we would have. So with that, I'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, Commissioners, my button is working again. If you have any questions for Mr. Peters regarding this presentation, feel free to click in. And if not, we have two items to discuss. We have public comment, and we also will discuss the last page that Mr. Peters talked about, the other city meetings. So, Commissioner Vasquez.
Okay. I have a question regarding the cell phones. So is there an exceptions to those rules? Because I know that sometimes I'm being told they're being used to research.
Well, under the policy, you're allowed to do research.
Well, then it has to be one way or the other. You can't allow one person to have a cell phone for
And-
research, because during the middle of those research, a lot of things can come through. So either we have them or we don't have them. I mean, I don't have them. I don't have my phones here.
And I want the commission to know that Alberto Vasquez and I have not talked about this. The two recommendations that I would make with regard to our policy is to remove the language with regard to research. If you need something researched, Mr. Fowler and I had the capability of looking something up for you. That protects you all. Because public perception, they see you on your phone, you're texting. If you don't use your phone any, and you refer, say, Mr. Peters, can you look up Florida statute 163-031 for me? We can look it up and read it to you. And then there's no doubt. If there's no cell phone being used or tablets or any electronic devices, there's no doubt that you're 100% aboard. The concern with this whole thing is public perception. Who are you getting information from? If it is a critical vote that's important to the community, like garbage contract, the public has a right to know where you're getting information from. And that's really what it comes down to. So, that's one change, and then the other, so that would be the one change, and then the other one is the fact that we would have the similar policy for the other boards.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sosa, and then Commissioner McCool.
Now, on both these policies, you have the one from 2010, which has a cell phone policy in there, and then we have a revised version on 2015. Did the 2015 policy negate the 2010 policy?
Actually, the policy that's in place is the one that was adopted on the 30th of July, did I say, of 2020. That's the latest version.
And is the cell phone policy in the July 2020 version? Because I haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah, July 30th, 2020 is the latest policy that was adopted by the commission. I'll be happy to get you a copy in the morning.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
Yeah, I don't personally have a problem with relinquishing my phone. I do have a problem with not being able to do research like either. I mean, so I'll do what, is prudent to do. And I think that it needs to be said regarding the decorum policy that I understand the fear and the concern and what will probably, knowing the people that I see when we talk about decorum, is protecting residents' First Amendment rights. Those rights are very broad, and they're painted by the Supreme Court to protect the public's right and interest to speak. First Amendment rights, I think, are differentiated with decorum. And decorum becomes very rowdy and off the road in these meetings sometimes. I'm guilty myself of expressing myself when I should remember that I'm an elected official and sit up here and I have a responsibility for decorum also. So I would just ask us that we can beg for decorum from our public and enforce the full rights that we have under limited meetings. There are, in my research, when we talk about limited meetings, there are 3 types of meetings, and I'm researching as well, and to make sure that residents' rights are protected, First Amendment rights are protected in these meetings. But I also understand sometimes I'm absolutely embarrassed for us because we have business people watching these meetings. My grandson has watched this meeting before, and the stuff that is hurled, while I understand anger, I've been angry, and I've been on the other side of the dais trying to express anger, that we have to do a better job. I have to do a better job because I don't mind being yelled at or someone getting personal if that's how they feel. But I do have a problem with it in a public setting when I look and I have little old ladies out here and I have younger people that want to share and they can't, and they've emailed me. They said, I would like to come to these meetings, but I just won't because of the vulgarity. So in trying to differentiate between what's vulgar, what's obscene, trying to discern the obscenity laws to balance with First Amendment rights, I understand that and want to preserve. And I understand that First Amendment says that we can say pretty much whatever we want to say. I mean, the Supreme Court and statutes are clear on that. And I'm just asking that our public remember that there are other people. And if you're pissed off, I'm just speaking personally, come to my office, yell and scream, curse all day long. Catch me outside or whatever. But there's a large audience of people trying to get information and trying to participate. And while I understand it's also not my job to make sure that people aren't offended, we're trying to run a city here and trying to make it available for all residents. So I am still continuing my First Amendment education because I know that at some juncture I'll be questioned on that. But we also have rules that are clearly stated, and I hope that we all remember our places when it comes to decorum and civility.
If I may, I have had a number of discussions with people about the First Amendment rights. Fun discussions. I have even offered jokingly to someone that I would buy them a round-trip ticket to go to Washington, D.C., and they can go in the gallery of the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House, or the Supreme Court and try to use the language that's used here and see how long they last in the room. And we all know the answer to that question. First Amendment rights, you have a right to speak to an issue. We have the right to set standards as to how that's to be done. The other thing is, you don't have to yell and scream. My wife has a wonderful way of letting me know that she's angry without yelling. She talks in monotone to me. That's actually more damaging to me, somebody talking to me in monotone instead of yelling. So there's other ways of doing it to get your point across. But the most important thing is, what we want is an open discussion from all views. And we have an environment here where it makes people not want to come and participate in democracy. That's a problem. And so hopefully the discussion of decorum policy will help us get to that point. That's it.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I'm going to echo Commissioner McCool, and my husband will tell you I do not have the perfect mouth, but when I'm on the dais, I have learned to control my tongue and say things without using the language. Recently, last week, we in fact ran into somebody at Lowe's, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen you guys in forever. Like, we can't come. We can't come. The last time we came, we were absolutely disgusted by the language that was being thrown around, and we don't talk like that at home, and I don't expect to go to a government place and hear it. And as I understand the freedom of speech, I also understand respect. And when I was raised, it was respect for your elders, respect for your superiors. And I'm not saying I'm a superior in any way, but I'm saying 9 times out of 10, I do have elders and I do have individuals in the audience and we do have kids. I also have, you know, I would have probably been flying across the room if I would use some of the language that's brought up in this commission. And, you know, that really kind of made me sad because this was a couple that was dedicated to being a part of Deltona and coming to meetings. And how many other people have we lost? Because we talk about we don't have people here, we don't have people here. When people don't like to come here when they feel threatened, when they're worried and they don't like to hear the vulgarity. You know, so I do ask that, you know, how can we do this without, as some people will say, stopping their freedom of speech? You know, the only thing I can ask them to do is to please be respectful of people watching this on TV, be respectful of individuals in the audience who may have additional ways of expressing themselves without coming across in a very vulgarity way. So, you know, I don't know the answer to this, Mr. Peters. I don't. You know, I get this whole decorum policy. I hope we can start getting some of our old residents back that used to be dedicated to coming to the meetings, because I would love to see more people out there. I just don't know the answer.
The reason I brought this up tonight is we got to do something different. You know, when I see the emails that I'm getting, the conversations I have with people, the conversations I have with commissioners. If you all remember back when we had the quasi-judicial workshop, Cliff Shepard said something that day that rather surprised me because it really wasn't on the agenda, but it was very pertinent. And that's when he said to you all, the manner in which you conduct yourselves up there is magnified by the people behind me. And there's a lot of truth to that. And I'm going to be very frank with you. I have heard comments from people, primarily your constituents, who have expressed concern with some of the dialogue that occurred between you all. And part of the reason I put that section of the decorum in there is to make you all aware that you do have a decorum policy that governs yourselves. And, you know, I often laugh at it, but when you watch C-SPAN and you watch the Congress, they'll say, my distinguished fellow representative, my distinguished fellow senator. And you know they hate each other. By the way, they talk to each other elsewhere on TV, but they started with that language because that language infers a level of respect to the other person. I'm not suggesting that Mr. Ramos look over to the vice mayor and say, my distinguished lady vice chair, but it wouldn't be bad. But the point being is, you know, we need to check ourselves. And, you know, Mr. Fowler and I are the same way. How we, you know, react over there can be coming back from the audience. So I think it's essential for us to remember that it is critical that the manner in which we conduct ourselves is reflected back at us. You know, when we have a contentious meeting like next Monday, we need to be respectful of each other. We all have a right to our opinion, and the discourse is what's critical to making good decisions. So, you know, I'm not denigrating anybody. I'm just hoping that having this discussion will make people realize, A, we have a procedure in place, and my desire and my hope is that if we will return back to following this procedure, that things will be much improved. And I will give you, my wife's gonna kill me when I get home for doing this, but if you all remember in DeBerry, they had a very contentious situation over there. actually resulted in the mayor being removed. And part of the problem with decorum, and they put decorum policies and procedures in DeBerry, they have worked. They have not had the rancor that we're seeing. They have people that get up and complain and all that, but they do not have the rancor that we're seeing. So I know it can work. I know these procedures can work because they're almost identical to what DeBerry has in place. So any other?
Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe, and I'm going to echo that in the sense that I think at the end of the day, it's us. We are the one who set the tone, besides the mayor setting the tone for the meeting. It's how we address and speak to each other. And I think if we can set that example, we won't be able to control or manage every single person that walks in. I don't think that's the intention. We want them to be able to express themselves. But I think if what we can control is what we do up here in this dais. And at the end of the day, we're going to need every single one of us to be able, in the big picture, to move forward. So I think we set that tone. And depending how we set that tone, by helping the mayor, I think it would trickle down to folks that come in here. And as it relates to research, I think I agree with you. And there are sometimes items that come up during the day and you want to be able to pick up. But I also believe we also get our agenda way ahead of time. And I think it's a great opportunity, not just to go through the agenda, but, and again, I'm not saying, folks, what you need to do, but I think it's a good opportunity if we have any questions or concerns, those would be the times for us to reach out to our CM. That's what he's there for. Not to tell us what to do, but to guide us and answer any questions. So therefore, by the time we get up here to this dais, we're not making researches at the moment when these things could have been taken care of, and we can actually move business forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and now there are no more speakers on my speaker list, so may we go to public comment, please?
Resident 1776, then Richard Bellick, then Terry Ellis, then Brandy White. Resident 1776, please.
Oh, where to even begin with this pompousness? So page 4, violation of Florida Constitution, Article 1, Section 5. We absolutely have the right to direct, and if somebody's sitting at home and they want to offer direction to you guys, they most certainly can text you. Doesn't mean you have to read it, doesn't mean you have to respond. People have the right, though, to communicate. I'd also like to point out on page 10, every commissioner desiring to speak shall address the chair and upon recognition by the mayor shall confine himself. You can't even write something without being discriminatory. So now, let's just move on because I see a lot of herselves up there. What you have control over would be found that based on Chaplinsky 1943. That was the Doctrine of Fighting Words. Now, the Doctrine of Fighting Words in 1943 was really big. It was like this, and then it got narrowed way, way, way down. So we're talking about the First Amendment. That got narrowed way, way down over the years. And apparently, we've got some people here who think that they're smarter than Justice John Harlan, who in 1971 said, "One man's vulgarity is another man's lyric." That was when the Supreme Court found in favor of Cohen in Cohen versus California. We also have to look at Miller versus California, and we have to look at Watts versus United States. And I'd also like to, especially with Miller versus California, one of the lines from Miller in 1973, does the content of word have literacy, artistic, political, or scientific value? And what I will leave you with is a medical term, lalochisia. Any of you heard of lalochisia? Because if you have someone in here who is engaging in lalochisia and you shut them up, you're looking at a lawsuit.
Thank you, sir.
Richard Bellick, please.
You've all seen me sit over there. Anita Bradford mentioned my name. May I respond? Nothing said. Second time, may I respond? Gets the sheriff and has me escorted out. That's a real class act, ain't it? Huh? How about this other deal? Address the chair. In DeBerry, that's the war cry. I got things on my computer. Mr. Bellock, address the chair. I seen people last week like this, talking out like this. She never said a word. You want respect? You got to earn it. 10 years and 3 months, right, Heidi? You should know better by now. Don't you know anything about your constituents? Nothing? I don't want to pick on you. I'm only telling the truth. Now, another thing is these emails. Have any of you shared these emails with anybody on this commission? Has anybody seen the emails you claim that you got? No, right? Okay. So I'll get a harmonica, all right? I could come up here and say anything, not get challenged. Now, people go like this. Hey, blah, 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 blah. You don't say nothing, but when I'm up there, you do. You know why? Huh? Because when I come up here, I tell the truth, and it hits home, and you don't like it. You got to get respect. When I seen you tonight, did I say hello, Mrs. Hesrig? Huh? Is that respect? Okay. Now, about this cursing up here. I do curse up here. I get animated. Now, I'm going to ask one of you a question, and I just would like them to answer just one simple yes or no. Miss Bradford, I talked to you for about 5 years, right? Have you ever heard me curse outside of this room? Seriously, you could say it. If I did, you could say it, Anita. I won't hold it against you, believe me. You know I never curse. I curse here, though, because I get animated. I got people, you ask them.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Terry Ellis, please.
Thank you.
Terry Ellis, Deltona. So, first of all, what I was going to really remark on Mr. Peters actually covered it, and that's that this commission gets reflected back. You see what happens from up there, out here. You know, I've been sitting here for a few years, and this city has faced situations with Ms. Chang, with Brandy White, so many things that are so offensive and that seem to never get resolved. So, you know, going forward, if we want to see better behavior from this city, one of the ways that we can do that is provide a way for things to actually get resolved in the city so that it doesn't have to escalate up to the point where someone is standing here at the mic, yelling and screaming, possibly cursing. Okay, that's where the change needs to be made. I keep saying it over and over again, communication. I've said something about town hall meetings. You need to give people the opportunity to address problems that not at this mic, but they have to be able to talk to you. You know, and I've been told that commissioners are not required to have town hall meetings. Well, then why are you up there? Because this is the way that people come together and talk to you. Maybe they don't want to come here to this dais, but emails, text messages, get out in your communities. It has to be better coming from the dais. Last thing that I want to say is when it comes to cursing, be really careful, because I don't do it. I don't like it when other people do it, but you do get into constitutional issues. And if we didn't have to face the things that we face, we wouldn't have to resolve to that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Brandy White, please.
Brandy White, Deltona. The research thing with the phones, do you guys not get city-issued iPads? Can't you research on those instead of your cell phones if it's research-related? It's an honest question, I don't know. I heard that the language violates city policy, but you need to be asking yourself, are you making policies that violate constitutional rights? That's the first question you should ask before you be passing any of this. One thing I heard was, you know, respectful conversation. Well, that's the problem, is a lot of us have come here looking for respectful conversation and we didn't get it. And instead we were talked down to and pretty much ignored. So you left people no choice but to come and direct it in that manner to get your attention. I know how many times I came here and said that. It kind of, I was like, all right, when Anita was like, you know, people want to come here and they want to feel safe. And I'm like, and then she said, because of cuss words. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, if that is your biggest worry is because of cuss words, why people ain't coming here? we're still back at square one because there's a lot bigger problems on why people fear coming here, and we need to get rid of those issues first and address those. The other thing was, let's see, respectful conversation. I wanted to really hit home on that because I remember the first time I came here, very well dressed, very well researched, spoke very well, and that's how I was dogged back. I was talked down to and dismissed, and so, you know, that's where my first impression came from. So I think, you know, before telling us how we should be respectful, it starts up there. And I know it's before all of you, and I come back different. I'm not up here doing that, but if I have to, I will. So I just hope you guys think about constitutional rights.
Thank you, ma'am. Try it.
Al, you know, I wasn't even going to come up here and speak on this, but you know, there's a lot to be said about what reflects. And I've noticed over the years, and I can say that over the years, because not only have I been here the last 4 or 5 years, almost at every single meeting, but for the first 5 years that the city was a city, I was here for almost every meeting. And I can honestly say those first 5 years was a lot more contentious than they are now. Less cuss words, probably, and I'll admit, yeah, I've cussed a few times, you know, but hey, it slips out every now and then, especially when I'm excited. And I get loud when I'm very passionate about something. Everybody should know that. I have a big mouth. I have a lot of heart for this city. I believe in this city. I've been here 30 years. But what bothers me about this isn't so much about the decorum here. It's the decorum up here. When you people set the tone, you get what you get from us. You got to remember, we put up with Jane Shine. We put up with John Mazurek talking down to us for years. Oh, that's right, 20 years he talked down to us. And yet, y'all want to call decorum? Now, I don't come up here very often and scream and yell at you and cuss and curse at you. I normally just stick to a subject.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. That's it, Mayor.
Okay, public comment is closed. Any other comments by the commission? If not, okay, who was that? Commissioner McCool.
I just wanted to say that I hear both loud and clear, and I understand that there's been a culture of that, and I like the softer, more gentle approach, and I think that probably this is the last time that I'll get away with using this excuse, but I'm a new commissioner and learning also, and I have a deep respect for, you know, both sides of this issue, and I want my residents to be able to be heard, and I want to listen, and so point taken on both sides. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I will say a few words to address some of the issues that were brought up. Town hall meetings. I love to do town hall meetings. Unfortunately, for the last year, we've been under some COVID issues. And there are people that don't come to these meetings and haven't in the past, not only because they don't want to come because of decorum, they don't want to come and go to a public hearing because of COVID. And that's why I have not had a town hall meeting. And I will, probably in the next 3 months. But in fairness to those commissioners that have and have not, that is one portion of where people will come and where they will not. The second comment that I want to make regards resolving issues. Resolving issues. I will agree in the past that most of the time when issues came up, there was never a forthcoming explanation from the manager until now. For the most part, managers sat quiet on the dais and said, staff, you'll handle that. City attorney, you'll handle that. There was not a forthcoming discussion, and there was not a discussion about what the city can do better. And if the public sees that as talking down to them and not acknowledging the faults that occur in every organization, I agree with you. But since Mr. Peters has been here, there has never been as much open dialogue and explanation from a manager ever in the 10 years that I've been sitting up here. And I understand the frustration when someone doesn't address your problem, when you don't get an answer. And this man gives you an answer, usually that meeting here, he talks about it and he explains things and he answers those questions. And to the second point of resolving issues, if we go back to all our ordinances, resolutions, and policies, there's a process in place to resolve issues. Sometimes a new issue occurs. Sometimes different issues occur, but there is a process in place. And unfortunately, the commission sometimes doesn't know there's a process in place. In the past, it wasn't explained to them. That's what I got done talking about before from the manager or the attorney in a way that should be consistent. We have a process for almost everything that comes to this city, whether it is creating an ordinance, creating a resolution, going ahead to your point, Commissioner Sosa, which resolution overrides the next one. All those things are there. There are methods of grievance. And when there's not a method of grievance, such as what happened with the previous city manager, we work on that, and that's what we're doing now, correct, Mr. Peters?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a process, and unfortunately, the wheels of government grind slowly, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me, it's frustrating for you, because we'd all like it to be done yesterday. What I would ask is that the commission itself look within and start respecting the process that not only the city of Deltona has, but every other municipality has a process that we go through. It's a legal and a civil process. That is what we go through. First Amendment. Last time this occurred, Mr. Peters, you probably know the date. I don't. It was your first meeting. How many F-bomb meeting? 57, 53?
57, ma'am. When I heard the third one, I started keeping track. There were 57 F-bombs in my first meeting here at the city.
So the 57 F-bomb meeting, after that, I did a lot of research with the city attorney, with outside attorneys, to find out where our First Amendment rights come and go. And yes, you can come up here and you can stand and address this commission and tell us that the Providence Boulevard is blank, 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 and use a curse word, and that is allowed. You cannot come up here and say that Commissioner Ramos is a blank, blank, blank. That's a personal attack. And there's a difference. There's a difference. In the course of addressing the commission for an issue to do with the city, we cannot prevent or say you can't use those words. It's First Amendment right. But a personal attack, and it says so on every single one of our things, personal attacks are not tolerated. Period. And that's decorum. And also, personal attacks are not tolerated from members of the commission to one another. In July 2nd, 2012, the City Commission then passed an ethics and civility pledge. Motion by Commissioner Zischkow, seconded by Commissioner Lowry to adopt the ethics and civility pledges. We have this. Has anybody signed it? I have. Anybody else ever seen it? It's a problem. okay? It says, I will support the open exchange of public discourse, which is essential to the democratic system of government. I pledge I will faithfully and completely follow and comply with all requirements of the Code of Ethics for public officers and employees contained in the Florida Statute. I recognize that as a cornerstone of democracy, Americans have observed certain rules of behavior generally known as civility. That I understand that civility, derived from the Latin word civitas, meaning city, and civis, meaning citizen, is a behavior worthy of citizens living in a community or in common with others. That I will refrain from displays of anger, rudeness, ridicule, impatience, and a lack of respect and personal attacks which detract from the open exchange of ideas, prevent fair discussion of those issues, and which can discourage individuals from participation in government. That I recognize that civility can assist in reaching consensus on diverse issues, allow for mutually respectful ongoing relationships, and can uplift our daily life and make it more pleasant to live in an organized society. And I will practice civility in my daily life and all that I do in my position as an elected or appointed official of the city of Deltona. Maybe we all need to sign it and get a copy. Commissioners, we have a lot of soul searching to do within ourselves, and then we have to stand together as a body and support the right thing. We have to understand there's a difference between the public's right to speak and personal attacks. And that goes from us up here to them out there. That's all I have to say on the matter. Mr. Peters, I am going to respectfully request that you provide the ethics and civility pledge to every commissioner. They don't have to sign it. When this first came out, there were commissioners that didn't sign it. Joyce told me that. Some people refused to sign it. Whatever you choose, you have a copy of it. There's a lot of time put in that in 2012. And also provide the commission with the highlighted portion of the Deltona City Commission Operating Guidelines, Meeting Rules and Procedures revised July 30th, 2020. Any other comments, sir? Any further discussion?
If I can ask, do you want us to proceed with putting similar policies in place for other boards?
That was my next question. I believe that the Planning and Zoning Board and Special Magistrate also need to have guidelines for civility and also Robert's Rules of Order. They need to have some sort of guideline. I don't blame them. It's hard. It's difficult. We don't get it right. And we're elected. We should know this stuff. So, I mean, I'm talking about motions and so forth, and speaking. So, Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I have a question. I know you spoke about this form that you signed. You know, as new commissioners that come in, I don't think we know what forms are there.
And you don't, and that's a problem. And I agree with you. This should have been given to commissioners, every single commissioner that got elected. It should be part of your packet, and I apologize that it was not. It should have been. So, and by saying this has nothing to do with you up here. All of you are new since this was done. This is not your fault. This needs to be brought forth to every single commissioner.
Madam Mayor, if I could address that. A part of the research on this, that is what I realized that we have been deficient on. Unfortunately, I came on board after the election occurred. I wasn't aware of the process, but we are putting a process in place where there will be basically, for lack of a better word, a course in a notebook. Truthfully, part of the reason we put the crates back there is all of the key documents in the city, including these policies and ethics statements, I believe are in there, are in those crates. What we probably need to do is provide each one of you all with a copy of what's in those crates so that you have it for your personal use in preparing for a meeting and what have you. In addition, I personally, because I've been secretary and parliamentarian for church council, have copies of Robert's Rules. I also have a 6-panel fold-out Robert's Rules Simplified to apply to meetings such as this. What's a proper motion and those type things. I was able to get 2 copies yesterday on Amazon delivered yesterday. The remaining copies will be in, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday of this week. You all will receive copies. I gave the mayor a copy of 1 of the 2 so that she could have it for tonight's meeting. She gets an A on her quiz. But that's exactly what it looks like. It's laminate. It is a really good cheat sheet for the Roberts Rule process. And for the citizens that think we're spending a lot of money, they're $6.95 on Amazon. So they're not overly expensive, but they're a good resource. They're a good resource on how you call point of order. You know, and all the times I've been watching Deltona Commission meetings, I don't believe I've ever heard a point of order. Other places I work, point of order every night. You know, we're going to provide that information, but one of the key things that we need to work on is not to have this discussion ever again. It will be part of the learning process. It will be part of a package that you're given so that we all understand. It's also important for a city manager to set the standards and get the new commissioner to understand what the policies and procedures are. You know, Ms. Hertzberg has the advantage of being the longest serving, and she remembers back when these things were done. Many of you all not. Many of you all are first-timers. And so consequently, you know, the whole purpose of this discussion tonight was not to beat you up, not to beat the citizens up. It was to provide information. And I just felt that it was important to have this discussion. It pains me when I watch how these meetings go compared to other places. And Mr. Ramos, or I think one of you all said, businesses watch. I've been doing economic development since 1983. They watch. Now, back in the day, they would actually come to the meeting. And I have seen companies come in and be appalled at what they see, and they leave. So, you know, it's important, you know, this is an opportunity to show what we are and who we are and what we're about. And so if we want to be a community that other communities respect, we have to garner that respect. And that goes for all of us, citizen, commission, staff. We all need to be a group that everyone can respect, even our peers. So with that, I'll shut up.
Okay. Vice Mayor? You deleted? Were you good, Commissioner Avila Vasquez? Were you good?
I guess so. I don't even remember what I was saying.
Any other comments? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I believe I had asked this before, and it was when Chang was a manager, about the adoption of the rules. Do we need to have this where we adopt Robert's rules? Because my understanding was it was brought up years ago, and we've never actually, the city of Deltona never adopted that we would use Robert's rules. That's what I was told. So I don't know if that's something that I know we refer to it quite frequently, but I was told that we actually never adopted to go by Robert's rules. So I don't know if that's something we want to look at after everybody maybe reviews it.
I believe it's a guideline. It says so in the policy and procedure. It's a guideline. And if that, does that constitute, if it's a guideline and it's in the policy and procedures, and those were passed or in the charter, Mr. Peters and Mr. Fowler, that's a legal question. Do we need to formalize that? Is there a desire to do that?
If you wish to adopt Robert's rules, they can occasionally get in the way of discussions, and it can be very difficult to follow them. I think perhaps you're better served utilizing them as a guideline as opposed to a strict method of monitoring who gets to speak when and how they get to speak. But certainly if you want to, you can.
Madam Mayor, if I can also expand on that. With Florida sunshine laws and open meeting laws and those type things, Robert's Rule does not always work. Typically what I have seen is a statement to the effect that we operate under Robert's Rules except in those circumstances where it's in variance with state statute. And that usually would cover you, because then, as the city attorney said, there are certain cases in Robert's Rules where you can run counter to what the state statute provides in a couple key areas, but 98% of Robert's Rule will work. The only negative thing about Robert's Rule, having played parliamentary, and I use the word played, there's actually a certification process for that. You can process somebody to death. If they know Robert's Rule and the other person doesn't, you can literally process them to death and it can look bad. I mean, it looks like a sword fight not going well. So that's one of my reluctance with Robert's Rule. But if you have those 6-panel folding cards, you'll be playing on an even playing field, because you'll all understand that those 6 pages will handle 98, 99% of the cases that you will ever come up with on a city council.
Okay. Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree with you, Mr. Peters. In many organizations that I belong to, we use Robert's Rules as guidance because it depends on the organization that is adopting Robert's Rules. So, and I know that, Mayor, your comment was correct. I think it was your comment saying that the city opted to use it as guidance because we can get into a lot of areas that are not related to city issues or government issues. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, since there's no one else on the speaker list, commissioners, the one thing we need to discuss, do we want to direct Mr. Peters to get some similar procedures for the P&Z and the magistrate? Is there a consensus to formalize some type of a procedure for running a meeting and having a process? Otherwise, it becomes free-for-all. Okay, all those in favor of asking Mr. Peters? Yes?
You're asking for consensus, correct?
Yes, so we don't say
Okay,
aye.
I just want to make sure that we're not asking for a vote, but for
No vote, we're
consensus.
just asking for consensus.
thank you, ma'am.
Commissioners, do we have consensus?
Yes.
Yes. 1, 2, 3. Commissioner Vasquez, 5, so, okay. All right, you have consensus to move forward to do some sort of a draft policy for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Good?
We're good.
Okay. Next item, 25th anniversary.
Happy subject.
Happy
I
subject.
saved it for last. The baby is an adult. The city of Deltona, 25 years old. We need to celebrate. It's been difficult in the year of COVID to plan anything. So what I wanted to do is just come forward. We'd like to have a discussion on the commission's thoughts on an appropriate celebration for such a momentous milestone. Ideas that we have been floating around are fireworks when COVID's safe. It may be as early as 4th of July. It may be more like Labor Day. The news is getting better every day as to when we will be COVID safe. We also have to pre-plan. So what I'd like to do is to work with some firework companies, with your permission, to see what kind of advance notice they need to have to do one of these. And maybe we don't do it on a holiday. Maybe we make it a special event for us. So that's the first thought. The second thought is a series of events at the center celebrating the various ethnic heritages in the city. These events would begin before Memorial Day and end with a patriotic event on the 4th of July. What I would propose to you is the city would pay for the performers. We would have a nominal charge to our residents to attend. The center is a wonderful place. There's some real opportunity to let the place be seen. But also, you know, Deltona is an extremely diverse community. And I think we need to celebrate that diversity. And I think this is an excellent way to do that. You know, if it's okay with you all, we will begin the process of making that happen. I've already talked to the folks at the center. They are extremely excited about being able to do this. So those are the two main ideas I have. I'd love to hear any ideas you may have, and let's have a discussion.
Okay, since I don't have the mayor's board here. Yeah, okay. Okay, Commissioner Villa-Vasquez?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Peters, on the series of events at the center celebrating the various ethnic heritages in the city of Deltona used to hold what we used to call Celebration of Nations Festival. And this included, it was one festival which included all the nations, all that wanted to be part of it.
Okay.
We haven't had it for the past 2 years, but it was held at Dewey Boster, and it was free to the community. So I don't know if that's something you want to think about doing, and I think I provided the list. I used to do this before I became a commissioner. I used to handle this.
I don't disagree with you, ma'am. The concern is we don't know where we're going to be with COVID. As the mayor said today at the round table, one of the most distressing things we heard is that only 85% of the people are going back for the second shot. And I think it's important for those people that are listening, if you for some reason miss your second shot, you still have 2 weeks in order to get that second shot. Your first shot is effective for 42 days, and you can get your shot within 42 days and it will work. So just because you missed your second shot, you still have 2 weeks to get that second shot. That being said, what I'm trying to do, what I was trying to do, is to put a plan together that is COVID safe. Obviously, if we can change, if we get into where we are, if we're called herd immunity, then potentially we could open it up to a larger event. The concern there is even with a larger event, because the shots are 95, 94, 86% effective, they're still telling you to wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart, and wear a mask, even if you get vaccinated. To be COVID safe, I think we're a ways away before we can have a large event.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'm excited that we may still get an opportunity to celebrate our 25th anniversary. Again, concerns of COVID, and we don't want to be out there spreading it. Starting on Memorial Day is, I think, a great opportunity. I'd like to know what ideas staff has for a safe event. Growing up, we always had a Memorial Day parade that kicked off summer, and it was the festivity of, vendors down the street, and it was just I don't want to say small town event, but because you would think everybody that was in town was at this event. So that's the only thing that concerns me is we haven't had any events for, gosh, it's going to be a year, right? So I think the first one we have, it's going to kind of be gangbusters, and everybody is going to be excited to be out and around. So I would be interested in knowing what staff's ideas are as far as kicking something off. I'm sure they've got something in mind. Only time's going to tell. I mean, that's where I guess I'm kind of iffy at, is we don't know what's going to happen in the next few months that could change whatever we do to plan, and then to have money allocated for something that we're not able to do. That's my only concern. So I guess I would be interested in hearing what staff would have planned in order to, safely do something.
Commissioner McCool?
Yeah, and going along those same lines, Memorial Day, absolutely, kicking off then. And with the 4th of July celebrating, just for me, just kicking it out there, would love to have a 4th of July parade. We've missed our parade for Christmas, and if we can, I mean, getting people to, be COVID safe for that 4th of July Day parade and kick off with something at the park with fireworks. We pull and make it a spectacular 4th of July. So the residents need this. I'm a resident. I need this. I feel that we've, not been able to. The Christmas lights were fantastic, but I just feel like as we've all been safe and cooped up and, being able to look forward to something, I think, because we've not been able to. It's like, are we, aren't we? And it's very anticlimactic and disappointing, so a great 4th of July day to be able to do that, have a big parade, patriotic parade, and be able to cook, to do something at Dewey with fireworks at night would be fantastic.
Any other comments, commissioners? And if there are none, is there any member from the public that signed up to speak for that? Okay, yes, ma'am. Mr. Peters, I think you've got a couple behind you.
Brandy White, Deltona. I'm just a little confused. So we can do it at the center, but not at Dewey Boster because of the crowd. So you're going to limit the people who can attend these festivities? So how do you pick and choose who gets to go? Okay. So my second question would be, it's supposed to be an anniversary celebration. I don't see where we're tying this to what we've done in the last 25 years or what the next 25 years may hold. So I was hoping to see something more along that line of information on what we've done for 25 years and key landmarks with that. I know there was a lot of things that was supposed to go last year. I was hoping maybe to still see some of those. That was just my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to respond, Mr. Peters?
I believe Ms. White had excellent ideas. We did have a lot of displays in here earlier from the historic group. A lot of it showed the history with the large steam boat model. We've done that. I would love to see it be put back out somewhere where it's safe. But it's difficult. We're trying to operate under difficult circumstances. I mean, we've got you all in cages, literally to be safe. But it's important that we try to open up. I would love nothing more for us to get to a point where we can all not just celebrate the 25th birthday of this city, but to celebrate the end of the horrible pandemic called COVID. I'd love to be able to find somebody that has a firework display that looks like a COVID virus that could blow up. But these are difficult times. I do feel like we need to do something to open up things for the community, and maybe we just have more events. And open it up to more people that way. If Dewey Boster, we could get 5,000 people in there, but if we had 20 events at the center with 250 people safely, that's the same number of people, just over more events. So I'm trying to find a way to have some form of a celebration.
Yeah, there was Terry Ellis and Mr. Bellet.
I was going to say the same thing that Brandy said about, I don't really see where we're celebrating what has happened and what's happening in the future. And then my other comment was, as we're having things at the center, since it has been so difficult for folks, maybe that's a time when we can, collect canned goods instead of, always charging an entrance, be it small, but maybe we can do canned goods or back-to-school donations and things like that and contribute to the community instead of always charging the community. The other thing is having something on 4th of July. I'd really rather see us have something that's separate from 4th of July so that we're not having people that are coming from other communities. Let's have something that's specific for just our community. So pick a different date. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
She's right, not 4th of July. That'd be a bad time. That's a bad time. And as far as like charging the people, I mean, you have to keep it consideration now. It's hard for a lot of people. I mean, we got food lines all over the place. People are begging for food, for God's sake. I mean, the price has to be something where people can get out, they can afford it. I mean, a $5 bill, and that's it. I mean, you can't start, taking food out of people's mouths. So, I mean, that would be the proper thing to do. Start out with a $5 bill. You get a crowd that one, maybe the next time you can go to $7.50. Maybe then you can go to $10, okay? And my other problem, I got a real problem I got to discuss now, and this has really got me PO'd. Dana McCool is very jealous of me because they know who I am in Publix and don't know who she is. Good night, people.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, Dana.
Okay, that closes the public comment portion of the meeting. Commissioner Ramos and Vice Mayor Bradford are on the board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think pretty much listening to the audience is where I was headed in the sense of, I think it would be great to give consent for direction for Mr. Peters, because I think what he's asking us is, do we want him to proceed? So therefore, then he can bring something back a little bit more solid for us so that then we can have some good conversation. So I'm in favor of moving this forward and giving that direction. Hopefully, we can get consent so that therefore we can get something back with a little bit more structure. Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Vice Mayor and then Commissioner Vasquez.
They had a lot of great ideas out there just now. One of the things that we may be able to help us a little bit on the whole COVID and everybody in one spot was have different events in different areas. We have Dewey Buster, we have the center, we have many parks, and maybe we can utilize different areas around the whole city, and we could almost do a thing where they go from one to the next, almost like a scavenger hunt or something, and we make it fun, and then that's also going to get people to visit maybe some parks or some areas they haven't visited before. And I think with that as well, that could encourage more activity and more people. More staff work, sorry, Mr. Peters, but I think it would be fun because, I mean, that just seems like, hey, we can go here and get this and here and get this, but I'm not limited to just this amount of people at this area. And then there's a little bit of everything highlighting different areas in everybody's district. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'd love to see what you can come up with, incorporating all of our wonderful features. Like Ms. White said, that's bringing in our past and our future. That's bringing in, this park was brought in here and this park was brought in here. All parks are open to guests. I mean, I would love to see what you guys can come up with for that. Maybe they're right, maybe 4th of July, everybody celebrates it anyway, but I think it would be fun to throw something together, bopping from place to place to place. That'd be kind of cool. So I'm excited, and I give you my blessings to see what you guys can come up with for a wonderful celebration.
Okay. Commissioner Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Peters, you might want to, I don't know if I have it, but maybe Joe Hearn can give you one of the meeting breakdowns or agendas from the last year, because there was really good ideas in that agenda. It also involved the schools, involved the students in the schools. It also involved a bicycle trail event function that we had one, I think, a few years ago when we did the butterfly event. And I think that was one of the most popular events that people were looking forward to, get the community involved in bicycles and sports and doing the trail and stuff like that. But I think some of those ideas were on the agendas used last year. And one of the last things that I think they were working it with was the schools with the projects, the essays and drawings of how did you learn about Deltona and what do you see as Deltona? So it'll be nice to do something like that as well, just in case we can't do anything, in a group. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sosa and then Commissioner King.
All right. I know a few people said about the July 4th they weren't in favor of it, but I know last July 4th, I talked to a lot of people, and they were very disappointed the fireworks did not materialize. So I think that is something we probably need to look at doing this year, is having a 4th of July celebration. But I also agree with everything else I heard as far as different events for our 25th anniversary, and maybe just not limit it to this year, but maybe have events just throughout the year, every year, get our city, involved within our city by doing these special events. I think that would be a very good idea, and I look forward to seeing what ideas you bring forward to us again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner King.
Yeah, I just want to throw 2 cents in there. First of all, I really think that whatever we do for 25th anniversary ought to certainly include the milestones of the city in the last 25 years. That's the celebration that we're looking for a 25th anniversary. What are the milestones that brought us step by step to where we are today? And what do we really want to see for the future of our city? I think those things need to be showcased and brought out. We have a lot of, I think the city does a pretty good job of having festivals and activities that basically showcase our various ethnic heritages. In my opinion, with the way things have been, if you want to do something positive, it's not to separate us in a way that we celebrate various ethnic heritages, but something that brings us all together as one group of human beings together. I think that's more important, especially now, than ever before. So I'm not sure that I would like to see, several events and celebrations that showcase our various ethnic heritages. We are a very diverse city already, and we do a pretty good job of having those types of activities and festivals throughout the year. I understand last year was a little tough for any of that, but let's bring the city together. Let's bring all of the ethnic groups together, and let's all celebrate together for the greatness and milestones that we've achieved and for what we want to do in the future. That would be my direction for celebrating our 25th anniversary.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Vasquez?
I just wanted to respond to Commissioner King. The city of Deltona for the past, well, besides these 2 past years, but prior to that, for 4 years straight, as a volunteer, a resident volunteer helping the city, we came up with this that's in Jacksonville, Deltona Celebration of Nations, or Deltona Nation Celebration. It's something similar to that, but the last time we held it, we had 11 countries representing in that festival, and it's a beautiful, beautiful festival. Unfortunately, because of COVID and stuff, it sort of slowed down. And as far as the history, former Commissioner Nancy Schleicher put a beautiful display of the history of the city of Deltona, which unfortunately, I think we had it here, am I correct, Mayor, for a while. And that is something that is still being kept to be displayed somewhere in the center or at the Little Red Schoolhouse. But all those ideas came from residents who met for the 25th anniversary, and they will be put together. The only one is the Celebration of Nations for the city of Deltona, which started to increase, the audience started to increase, and lately they'll be asking, what happened to that beautiful event the city started? And of course, COVID held it back. But I think that your suggestion, Commissioner King, is a great idea, that we need to make one big event, not just 10 different ones. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of comments. At the center, I know that just being involved in countywide events, it's pretty much one of the only places that you can have events that are socially distant, and that have been, we've been very good about doing that. I mean, there's very few, there's only really 3. There's Brandon Center, there's the Ocean Center, and us. Even Sanborn has been doing a good job with the round table, but it's small. So how has attendance been for any events that you've had there? Pretty good for any of the evening events?
We have done pretty well with the events by keeping people socially distant. Chris and Joe do an incredible job to make it a good experience. That was part of the reason that I talked to them about the idea. I do like what Ms. White said, because I can speak from personal experience. Some of you all may know this. My wife and I, our Christmas present to each other is a Christmas party that usually involves 150 to 175 people at our house. The only thing we've ever asked people to do is on certain years we have them bring food, and on certain years we have them bring pet food. Interestingly, we have found it's harder to distribute the food than it is the pet food. So for the last couple of years, it's been pet food. Now, 150 people will result in a Chevy Suburban completely packed with food. So, people, that may be an alternative to a nominal fee, and I applaud Ms. White for the idea. Ms. Avilia Vasquez, while you were talking, something that could be done is work with the schools to do a scholarship program for an essay or artwork, 2 separate programs based on age groups, have a first, second, and third. That would be a significant prize. First place being like $2,500, second place being $1,500, and third place being $750. And the rules of the contest is Deltona's history, and let them produce artwork and essays that can be put online or displayed here in City Hall. We got some talented people in our school systems, and it's an opportunity to get a scholarship that can help them with their future education, and maybe it be in writing or art. So I'm going to take a look at that. I think it's an excellent idea. We will reach out to the school system on that. And I'll talk to Joe and Chris and see what we can do in terms of bringing together a multitude of people celebrating the city past. And we'll come back to you with a program.
And I think that just in closing, we have so many really cool things like Commissioner King mentioned. I mean, our Veterans Museum is just a really, really a wonderful place to go and visit, and people come from all over the place. And a lot of times, maybe there are people in Deltona that don't even know it's there. Lyonia Preserve. I mean, no other city has like a Lyonia Preserve in their city with the amphitheater and the building there, and our all-inclusive playground at Thornby. I mean, that was a wonderful, wonderful thing that we did many years ago, and I drove by there the other night, and there were a bunch of people there. And we also have, like you said, the Little Red Schoolhouse, the historical items, we have the lake shore and the boat ramp, and we have the center. And if there's possible, you've got a really talented group of people that are doing videos and they're doing drone shots, maybe to put something like that together to highlight those things and put it on a YouTube channel on our city website and put those things on our screen the people come in here before meetings and before workshops and roll some of that stuff. I mean, we really, really have a lot of talented group. I mean, that's a lot to put together, but something like that would encompass the past, the present, and the future. Look we have Amazon. That's another thing that the city can be proud of. No one else in Volusia County has an Amazon distribution center, or in Seminole. Brevard.
Let me remind you, when Jerry Mays did his ecotourism, we had the app. Our intention was to do a scavenger hunt where, if you the first number of people to complete it will get a T-shirt. And, we double our efforts to get that app completed. The next app that we will be doing will be our park system, so that you will be able to put in West Crowell and see what's there. If you have a specific thing you're looking for, you type it in, and it'll tell you every park that has it. So that's the second project after the ecotourism. So some of these things you're talking about are already in process, and we're really excited at a staff level to be able to put that together, because just as you all have said, we have some wonderful facilities here in the city. We just need to get the word out.
Okay, Commissioner King, and then we'll wrap it up.
I was just going to add to that, West Volusia Chamber of Commerce was heavily involved in partnering with us last year to celebrate our 25th anniversary. And they had a lot of really good ideas, and I think we should maybe contact them and see if they'd be willing to come back and kind of help us with putting that together, because they had some really good ideas about things that we could be doing, some of the activities that we could be celebrating.
Well,
I've been in contact with them.
I think, sir, you have your direction from the commission to go ahead and, as Commissioner Vasquez said, look back on the other ideas that they had, and Commissioner King, obviously you've already been in touch with the chamber. Also, please reach out to Halifax Health. Were they not the premier sponsor at that point? I know that they were whatever they called the premier sponsor. So if you'd reach out with that and come back to this commission, if commissioners are in agreement, come back with some ideas, and let's hope in the next few months we can get the city rolling, get some fun stuff going on, okay? All right, any other comments? Then we are adjourned. The scavenger hunt would be cool.